You won't believe what just happened in My Hero Academia. Chapter 425 of the manga just released, and it teases a brand new villain. It seems we're getting one final character arc before the curtain falls. You'll see a brief look at the character in Chapter 425, with the first panel showing creepy scissors. It's followed by a partial view of their face covered with bandages, and their eyes tearing up like a waterfall. Their body is bruised, hands covered with dirt or blood, and the hunchback implies the character seems to be having trouble even standing as they continue to walk barefooted through the ruins of a destroyed area. If you've read the war arc already, these might appear to you like the ruins of Shigaraki's battle with the pro-heroes. It's still a little too early to say whether this is a brand new villain, but the way they have been sketched implies so. What are your thoughts? If you think they are a villain, tell us all your wild theories in the comments. This might also be the perfect time to mention that My Hero Academia's author, Kyohei Horikoshi, plans on ending the manga before Jump Festa 2024. Otherwise, he said that he'll be holding a prostration festival on stage. The Jump Festa is usually held in December every year, so that gives us about 15 or 20 chapters together with Deku and the gang. Yeah, that also means goodbye to any new My Hero Academia opening themes after Season 8. Back to the topic at hand, if this is indeed a new villain in Chapter 425, they're probably going to play a minor part in the story. Maybe we'll see them acting as a catalyst for a satisfying conclusion to the manga. One running theory in the fandom is that this new character might fight the pro-heroes in a small-scale battle. Things will go south, and then the now quirkless Midoriya will arrive on the scene. We might see a typical My Hero Academia monologue ensue, and then Midoriya will successfully be able to reach out to this character, thanks to the power of friendship, thus serving as a source of redemption for both of them, and leading to a satisfying conclusion. Speaking of, be sure to subscribe if you plan on watching the manga's ending this year. It's a pretty far-fetched hunch, but given how 15 or so chapters are left, and that any big villains like Shigaraki and All For One are about as good as gone, it does make sense. Especially because it would end Midoriya's character arc in such a nice way. Don't you think? He began helping people as a quirkless teenager, and years later, he's still that same kid. The new villain introduction aside, now let's get into what the remainder of Chapter 425 is about. The first thing it covered was one of the most awaited moments of My Hero Academia, Class 1A's graduation. It's been a decade since the manga started publication, and during that time, people in real life like you and me have graduated college and university, have settled down, and maybe even had kids. But Deku, Uraraka, and the rest of their friends are still in Class 1A. Well, not anymore. Chapter 425 begins with UA High School holding a graduation ceremony. Students from all of the years, including Mirio, Midoriya, and Bakugo, attended the ceremony, and the Class 1A students are finally moved on to their next year as Class 2A, albeit Aizawa is still their homeroom teacher. Meanwhile, a fresh batch of New Years have arrived, causing Midoriya to reminisce on his early days at UA High. It's also a bit weird that Kyohei-san wants to end My Hero Academia here, considering that the entire story takes place across a span of only 3 years. Just imagine the challenges that might await the heroes in their second and third years. Like, Kyohei-san could make My Hero Academia bigger than One Piece if he wanted to. Chapter 1269. Class 2A graduates, Mineta proposes, Bakugo goes bald or something. Right after graduation, Chapter 425 cuts to the introduction of the villain we've discussed previously. In the final panels, we see Midoriya asking Todoroki whether or not he'll attend Aoyama's farewell party, and then the chapter abruptly ends with a shot of Endeavor sitting in a wheelchair in front of a chamber with someone inside. The running guess is that it's a severely injured Dabi, who last we saw in the war arc was about to kill Endeavor in a suicide blast. But thankfully, Todoroki showed up in the nick of time and used his ice powers to cool down his big bro. The Endeavor panel was the final image in the latest chapter of My Hero Academia, and sort of left things on a mini cliffhanger, so you'll probably see Dabi's fate explained in Chapter 426. Considering how Endeavor regrets Dabi's upbringing, Endeavor and the rest of the Todoroki family are probably going to chip in on his rehabilitation journey. Granted, that's mentioned soon. The final war arc is the longest in the manga, and after the battle with Shigaraki, most of the pro-heroes are in rehabilitation themselves, so there shouldn't be any major fighting in the upcoming chapters. Instead, you'll see them focus on resolving character arcs, showing the aftermath of Shigaraki's actions, and be a wrap-up of the entire series. Maybe the final few chapters will set up a spin-off. The timing's perfect, especially now with the arrival of the new Class 1A. The graduation ceremony, Dabi's condition, the New Year students, and Shigaraki's after effects on the Hero Society. There's simply so many plot threads that could lead to a potential sequel. Not to mention the disturbing introduction of the new villain pops up a few questions of its own, so it's interesting to see how Kyohei-san will wrap it all up. Hopefully on a positive note. My Hero Academia is now on an extended break for the time being, but you can expect to read it again on June 30th. According to the official Shueisha's Manga Plus website, the manga has had an amazing run for the last decade. That said, Kyohei-san must be bored out of his mind from 10 years of drawing Mineta throwing balls out of his head. He might look to newer adventures following its end. Fingers crossed they're just as fun as watching All Might acting like a dad.